Hello. We are going to be playing a quick round of our Berlin Airlift game. This game is set in 1948 during the Berlin Airlift and is meant to kind of give a broad scale overview of some of the political tensions and actions that were happening during this historical event, as well as showing how close either side could have potentially pulled it off, even though the Americans ended up being successful in the actual game itself. So there's two sides. There's the USSR player, which I'll be playing today, and then Ethan will be playing the Americans. Berlin starts at 9 supplies, and then every turn Berlin consumes 2 supplies to stay afloat. If at any point Berlin reaches 0 supplies, the USSR automatically wins. And if at any point the Americans are able to consecutively supply Berlin 3 turns in a row with enough supplies that they do not decrease in the amount of supplies that they consume, the US automatically wins. Whoever successfully took a step towards their goal gains a victory point in that turn, and if at the end of turn 15 neither player has managed to win with their automatic win condition, they are declared the winner. Ties go to the Americans. So the game starts. Each player has their deck shuffled and will draw 5 cards. And then an event card is flipped over. So in this one there was a no event card, which looks like this, and that doesn't modify anything on the round of play. The cards themselves for the USSR look like this. It has its description and occasionally some flavor text down here. It looks like I've got a special event in here. And the action point is at the top. Each player has 5 action points per turn, unless there's a special event that modifies that. Ethan, if you want to show them what the US cards look like.
This is what the US card looks like. It's fairly similar, it's just kind of the only difference is it's blue.
Alright, so then both players would select the cards that they wish to play, and we would place them down, face down like so. Once both players say that they're ready, we would flip over the cards, and everything would take place at once, including the special event. So in this turn, I played 2 aerial interferences for 4 points, and Ethan, you played 2 air groups. Each aerial interference blocks an air group from going through to Berlin. So in this turn, 2 supplies would be lost by Berlin, putting them at 7, and I would gain a victory point and go to turn 2. These are then discarded. It should be noted, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Then you would draw back to your 5 card hand. At any point, if you don't like the cards in your hand, you can discard up to 2 cards in your hand and replace them with 2 more once per turn. So a new event would happen. And again, no new event.
So for the turns, each card has a specific action point value, and you have up to 5 action points you can play per turn. So on like the corner of the card, I know it's kind of hard to see, there's the amount of action points each card takes. So you can have so many turns per, so many cards you can play per turn, so it kind of limits the amount you can play, so we're not just like playing our whole hand every time. But there are a few cards in the deck and events that allow you to get more action points, or things cost less, so it allows you to play more and catch up, or maybe even get a further lead. You know, kind of depending on how you're trying to play the game.
So I'm going to play KGB Intelligence, which allows me to flip over 2 of the cards that the US has been played. And once there's also a card called Espionage that does something similar, and once they've been flipped over, he can't take them back and change what he's playing. So he's got an air group and a air group's resolve, which allows, if I played an aerial interference, air group's resolve counteracts that, so it go through either way. But since KGB Intelligence costs 4 and I don't have any modifying effects, that's pretty much the end of what I can do this turn. So I would say I'm good. Things would resolve. he would get one air group through, so Berlin would still lose one supply, moving it to 6. I would get another victory point, and the turn encounter would increase to 3. I would discard, draw again. And then there's the 5. I don't like some of the cards in my hand, so I'm going to choose to discard 1 and redraw. Okay, and then I'll place down these 2 cards.
Oh, these 2 cards? No good.
Alright. Do you want to explain your special cards?
Yeah. So, the U.S. has specifically special cards. This one is called local support specifically. What it does is it gives the USA every turn 1 extra action point. So every turn now they have essentially 6 action points. But there are 2 ways you can remove them, or one way you can remove them as a USSR player, and one way you can protect them as the USA player. So if I were to draw a military police card, I could play it, and then it would essentially be a barrier, almost in a way, for these cards, so that if he got this KGB security card, it wouldn't automatically just get rid of the card. But if he played it right now, then I would not be able to do anything with the card, and it would essentially be removed from play, and then it would be discarded, and you'd have to wait until hands were reshuffled, and then you could play it again.
So essentially the US player has a weaker deck until their buffs get in play, then they become really strong. And the USSR player has an overall stronger base deck, but they don't have any special buffs that will stack and gain momentum. So for this turn, you have an air group, I have an aerial interference, and a changing history, which removes 1 supply from Berlin. So he will lose 3 supplies this turn. So we're at 6, now to 3. I gain another victory point, and now we're on turn 4. It should be noted that at turn 5, the USA player gains an automatic buff of their air groups cost 1 less action point to play, to kind of symbolize the gaining organization that they had during the Berlin Airlift as time passed.
So I'm discarding 1 card because I did not want that in my hand.
Okay, I'm going to play an espionage and pick your middle card. Picker. Okay, I won't make any changes. Oh, we forgot the death. No, that's an ironic how that shuffled. I promise we have event cards that do things.
So I played an air group and a military police. So now if he plays a security card, which he ended up doing, instead of knocking out my support card, or my local support special card, it'll just knock out the military police. So it'll still be in play for now until he either draws another security card and removes it, or if I get another military police, still be in play.
Yep. So now Berlin is at 2 supplies. I gain another victory point. And now we're on turn 5. So his air groups cost 1 less to play. Oop, I discarded that there. And I don't like what I drew. And I'm going to play this and this.
So I played an air group and a special card. I think he ended up winning because I think Berlin ran out of supplies.
Yeah, so that would be a USSR victory because he was at 2 and he went to 0, which means that I would automatically win.
Yeah.
Part of the game does have some RNG elements to it, as if the USA can get their buff cards in play soon, generally it leads them to having a bit of a stronger chance of winning. And if they kind of get unlucky or the special events are just against them, the USR tends to win. But generally we've had about a 60-40 split between who wins and who doesn't. We can kind of, if you want to fish out your special cards and showcase them, to kind of show how the USA deck would go at full steam, because it didn't really get to showcase it in this round. After turn 5, with all special event cards in play, the USA would have 6 action points. Their air groups would be free to play, and their air cruise resolve would count as double, which pretty much shuts down most of the USSR's deck. Contrarily, there's a couple cards in here called 5-Year Plan, Centralized Government, and Iron Curtain that are kind of the specials. This allows me to put 7 cards in my deck. This reduces the point cost by 1 for every card in my deck, and this kind of acts as a double aerial interference. And what these allow me to do is kind of rally to try to, if I'm close to winning and he's starting to pull ahead with his buffs, they allow me to kind of knock him back or try to make a more valiant effort to not lose.
Yeah, so kind of what he was talking about before. So the public appeal he was talking about, this specifically allows me, if I play an Air Cruise Resolve card, it would bypass 2 of the aerial interference cards instead of just the regular 1. Local support, as I played before, allows me to get 1 action point. And then this is the most important card to the USA's kind of win condition in their deck, is that if you play General William H. Turner, the air group cost reduces by 1 point. So in combination with the turn 5 buff of it reducing by 1 point, it essentially becomes free until this is removed from play. So once you get kind of that, it allows you to play so many air groups per turn where you're starting to gain supplies rather than lose. And then in conjunction with all the other stuff, it allows you to play so many air groups that at a certain point for the USSR, it's kind of almost unbearable to deal with, which is kind of the point of the Turner card, because that's kind of what is realistic, is that he kind of made their supply chain good enough to supply Berlin.
Yeah, outcompete. And I promise here, as promised, we did have special events. The shuffling just kind of deemed that they wouldn't be active in this one. There's some that gain action points, some that give supplies to Berlin. There's a couple that gave 2 supplies to Berlin, which normally, if the RNG was a bit more in favor of the USA, would give them kind of a buff and a reprieve, because the USSR does come out of the gate kind of swinging. Yeah. I don't believe we have enough time to do another round, so I think that is mostly what we have. Yeah.
Nice. Class playing.